Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you how to paint 3 different camouflage patterns on these cheap plastic army men. I've already posted shorts of these videos on my channel, but these are going to be a little bit more detailed walkthrough. I'm going to slow down the video a little bit more. You can see the process in real time, and it speeds up in some instances, but you get a sense for the entire painting process, which I think a lot of people find really valuable. I know I do when I'm watching a painting tutorial. A fun little hack with painting these very flat style army men is that I didn't paint the back of 2 of these. So they're completely black on the back still, but I was able to test my camo prints on the front, and because they're just so flat, it's almost like 2 sides of paper. I could potentially even go back in and do alternate camo schemes in the back here in the future. So with that being said, let's dive in. I'm going to start with the Green Ranger inspired camo first. Before I begin painting any of my miniatures, be they toy soldiers or more expensive models, I always spray paint them black first. I did not do any mold cleanup for these because they are so cheap, and I really wanted to focus on the painting demonstration portion. A lot of people in the shorts commented that I should clean them up or wanted to see them cleaned up, and I'm sorry if that bugs you. This is really just to be a like I said, a demonstration of how to paint and to do so efficiently, and above all else, just have fun with what these are. I mean, cleaning these up beyond the basics is really a waste of time, I think. Luckily, though, none of these came with excessive flash mold or anything like that. So just to sort of give you some commentary about what we're actually looking at here is I did a top coat, a base layer of green gray. I used all Vallejo paints. Here I'm using tan earth as like to create these little blobs on top of the olive gray, and then in a second I'll go over that and create like these non-uniform patterns, much like you see in the example I'll show in a second. I'm going to use some flat brown and just try to create these overlapping blob shapes. And after I do the brown, I'm actually going to go over and do black in these skinny little line shapes. They're almost like, they remind me of tree branches in some ways. They're very thin compared to the larger tan and flat brown blobs that I put down in the first couple layers. Yeah, I think it's important to mention here, when you're painting this kind of camo, I could have easily started with a tan earth base coat rather than the olive gray. I just sort of picked one. Looking at the references again in just a second, I think it's kind of up to the artist's interpretation of what they want to lay down as their first coat. You could even do brown as the first coat. It's really no hard and fast rules. And that's all part of the fun of experimenting, and that is what's great about the Army Men, is that I could do this again and experiment with the other base coats just as easily and just as efficiently.
Hey, James Viola here. Just wanted to quickly say thank you for watching the video. If you haven't already, please like the video. It helps boost it, and so more people can see it and have fun with this hobby. Also consider subscribing, because that makes me feel good inside. It's a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling. Thanks so much. Let's get back to the video.
And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I did paint the entire figure in green camo, but for the other 2, I did not paint their backs. I also didn't really think it was necessary to paint the face, because you can't get good face painting practice with these types of figures because they really lack a lot of detail. They are very like blobby and irregular, and I don't think it's I don't think it's wise to use your time to try and paint layering or volumetric highlighting or anything with something that is so goofy, unless you're trying to create something that looks goofy, if that makes sense. So in the other 2, I didn't paint their faces, but it's still worth it to maybe practice your coverage and your pulls, like the actual way you pull the paint on the figure, if that's something you really want to practice on. But I don't think you're going to achieve a high quality result on these goofy faces with any amount of like serious practice. I think those still are left to better sculpts and better models. You can see here I'm kind of going through, and I'm still practicing like the finer details, like hitting all the areas of the straps and stuff like that, and working on my precision. So for that in that regard, I think they're helpful. But if you want to just like create a very basic look and have them look like soldiers on the tabletop, you know, you can just stick to one flat color. I used beige red, which is like my go-to for all Caucasian skin. And then, you know, flat browns and reds are really good for creating darker skins. You can mix those in. I don't have a great recipe for darker skin, but I have had some success with painting those in the past. So that might be worth exploring in a future tutorial. Here you see me trying my best to do some highlights and some lowlights on the face, but he was just so uninteresting that I kind of gave up and went back to highlighting the satchels and bags on his belt. Okay, turning now to our second figure. I actually tried this camo on a previous Army Man video, and it was just a short. I never put it into like a longer format video. So this was a great chance for me to revisit it, try to up my game with it, because the first one turned out okay, I think. But this one really was about, you know, trying to achieve that level of detail that I did not achieve in the first one. So I started with a thin layer of tan earth to kind of get the base color down. Again, I didn't paint the back of this figure. I actually go over this again and do another coat and give it a nice even coverage before then going and painting the straps, the belt, and the pouches with khaki. So you'll see that in a second here. I'm actually just going to quickly show you my second pass of the second base layer, so you can see how the coverage just takes away a lot of those dark shadows that were remaining from the first pass. The paint was just a little bit too thin down with water. So I think for a lot of people, the difference between tan earth and khaki is going to seem really minute, like why bother? You could just paint the entire figure tan if you wanted to and call it a day. I don't know why I didn't. I just thought it would be, better to practice like actually separating the colors first, because once the camouflage pattern is all done, it does really pop off and stand in contrast to the straps and the belt and the pouches and the boots and everything. And now that the very boring but very important step of base coating is out of the way, I turn to flat brown to really begin work on the camouflage pattern. Here's an example of it in the top left-hand corner of the screen. I was informed by one of my viewers that it's called a chocolate chip camo pattern, which is pretty awesome. I didn't know that. It makes me like it even more. And I'm really just using that flat brown to paint these large blobular shapes like you saw in the example. And after that, we're going to then begin to add these little dot textures, which gave me a little bit of a problem in the beginning with the brush I used, but you'll see here I'm using cream white with this, it's actually a Citadel brush by Games Workshop that I've sort of destroyed over time. And I was trying to get some irregular dotted patterns out of it, but the bristles were just going on a little bit bigger than I liked. So here you see me, I'm actually going in with a number 0 brush and dotting them with black, but I decide about halfway through doing this that I need smaller dots. So I go back to the cream using the same 0 brush and start adding in more dots. And then after I'm pretty happy with the way that looks, I go back and add in black again. So here I am with the cream white, being a little bit more precise and trying to make them a bit smaller so it feels more natural and realistic, like in the example. Which, as I pull up again here, shows you that there is a large expanse of tan, which is why I did that first, then what to me looks like brown blobs. So I did those second, and then lighter colored tan, which I'm using cream for extreme contrast purposes, with accents of black around all of those little dots. So with that in mind, I think the one piece of advice I would want you to take away from this video is to use references whenever possible. Not everyone has a photographic memory. They see something one time, they know exactly what it looks like, and they can replicate it. These things take practice, and practice is really study and learning, and that involves looking at what you're referencing, like looking at something and then trying to replicate it. That is really what we're trying to do here. So using real-world examples is always the best recipe. So for this third pattern, I'm going to use blues and a bit of khaki to create a unique camouflage pattern, but use the same techniques I used in the previous two camouflages. So I'm going to use a bit of blobs and a bit of dot texture to create something that is very unique. I think the final result is pretty fun. It's not the most successful of the three. I think that would be the desert camo for sure. But I really liked just having fun and not worrying about following a specific guideline in any way. Again, it gave me some freedom and allowed me to reinforce what I had just practiced in the previous two camouflage patterns and solidify it in my mind in a creative and fun way. So as I wrap up this third and final figure, I just want to say thank you again to everyone who watches my videos, who likes, subscribed, comments regularly. It really means a lot to me. I love the community that we're building with this channel. I want to keep making awesome videos for you guys and great painting tutorials and more just general creativity tutorials. Please share this with your dad. I think he'll really like it. If you are the dad, tell me in the comments what you think. Did you play with Army Men growing up? I really want to hear from you guys. Thanks again. Have a great one. I'll see you guys in my next video.